trying to make sure that Livia gets all the time she needs to speak. So, Livia, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Josh, and thank you so much for hosting myself on behalf of TrustLaw here today. TrustLaw and Taproot have been working together for a while to provide both legal and non-legal pro bono between the two of us to nonprofit organizations doing really critical work like all of you. So I'm really, really pleased to have the opportunity to meet with all of you today. As Josh mentioned, my name is Livia Fry. I am a program officer with TrustLaw at the Thomson Reuters Foundation, and I oversee our North America and the Caribbean region. And without further ado, I'm actually going to start sharing my screen to tell you a little more in depth about what all of that actually means and how we can hopefully be of use to all of you. And I have forgotten to hit the screen share button. There we go. All right, just bear with me for one moment. Okay, so just to ask, can everybody see my screen? Perfect. I see people nodding. I see a thumbs up from Josh. Wonderful. So, just a quick agenda for today. So, I'll talk to you a little bit about what the Thomson Reuters Foundation is and what trust law is. And then we can talk about different legal pro bono needs that you might have in an issue spotting exercise that trust law has come up with called a legal health check. I will then talk to you about how to access pro bono support from trust law and the different categories of pro bono legal support that we offer. And of course, we'll hold plenty of time for a question and answer at the end. I am also happy to provide my email address either in the chat or through Josh, so you can always follow up with me at any time. And I'm always happy to provide further information in the form of our Trust Law brochure or any other material that might be useful to you as well. So the Thomson Reuters Foundation, in a nutshell, is the charitable arm of Thomson Reuters C Corporation. We are registered as an independent charity in England and as a nonprofit in the United States, but we are truly a global team that leverages the expertise and the reach of Thomson Reuters to bring different programs, including trust law, to nonprofit organizations whose work that we hope to support. And again, just really quickly, we have several programs, Trust Law being the one that we're going to concentrate the most on today, but just so you're aware of our other programs, we work a lot in the area specifically of media development and strengthening the future of free and independent journalism. So we do that by supporting our own news program that covers stories that are underreported or being covered, or we cover unreported angles of those stories. We support the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism, which is a research-based institution at Oxford University. We provide capacity building and mentoring to journalists, particularly new journalists. We host something called Trust Conference, which is meant to harness kind of convening power and bring together a lot of different thought leaders from different sectors to address some of the world's most pressing problems, which all of you work on. And then there is Trust Law, which is kind of the most traditional philanthropic program of the Thomson Reuters Foundation, only rather than providing in just straight up financial support, we provide in-kind support in the form of access to pro bono legal counsel. So Trust Law's impact, we have provided over $225 million in pro bono hours, and we maintain a network of over 1,000 law firms and in-house counsel teams around the world, which has let us make over 8,000 pro bono connections in 199 countries. And we hope that we will be able to make some for you as well. So I'll talk to you a little bit about what Trust Law can do. And I will mention at the outset that Trust Law is, I hope it goes without saying, a completely free service. It is a philanthropic giving program, so at no point will anybody ask you for money. We do get that question sometimes, so just to clarify, it is a completely free philanthropic giving program. And we provide in-kind support through access to our network of legal members, those law firms and in-house counsel teams, to provide you with legal support that really falls into two buckets or two categories. And that first one is legal advice, which in a nutshell is what most people think of lawyers doing on a daily basis: help with drafting or reviewing contracts, If you have questions around employment law, that can include volunteer agreements, HR policies, a review of an employee handbook. If you have questions around corporate governance or structure, if you have questions around tax law, specifically as it relates to your nonprofit status, if you have data privacy or protection questions, or you have questions around protecting a piece of your intellectual property, all of these are things that fall under that legal advice category. And that's where we see about 80% of requests come from. And that other category is legal research, which I think I already saw a question in the chat about. So that is where you would have a particular topic or set of questions that you would want lawyers to do a deep dive into case law, a deep dive into pending legislation and the impact it might have on a particular issue or on the regulatory environment that you work in, anything like that. And you can choose the deliverable. It might be an internal deliverable, like a strategy memo that just gives you an overview of relevant case law and legislation and lets you know how you can proceed to continue your work. Or it could be an external deliverable, like a Know Your Rights guide that you distribute to the community or communities that you serve. And we'll get a little more into that the further in we go. But this is just kind of a top level overview of those two categories. And we see legal research make up about 20% of those requests for support that we receive. But we're always very excited to do it. So yes, to the person in the chat who asked, we can match you with lawyers to help you with research on case law. And it's something we're actually very enthusiastic about doing. So there are unfortunately some legal issues that we cannot offer support for, and we do like to talk about those at the outset just to make sure that you know what you can come to us for and what you would have to seek outside counsel for. So advocacy on behalf of organizations or individuals, and that really goes with this third bullet point around litigation. So what we mean by this, for example, if heaven forbid you found yourself party to a lawsuit, we could match you with counsel to advise you of your general rights and responsibilities and what you can expect in that situation. We cannot, however, match you with counsel to actually represent you in court, write letters or messages on your behalf, or anything like that. That is something you would have to seek, outside representation for. Requests for pro bono assistance on behalf of a third party. So any request for support would have to be on behalf of your organization. That said, if you have a peer organization or organizations that you work with who you think would also benefit from pro bono legal support, we always love to be connected with them. You can always pass on our information. We're always happy to chat and get them signed up with TrustLaw too. Immigration law. So again, if you are, for example, sponsoring an employee to work in the United States, we can match you with a lawyer to advise you of your rights and responsibilities vis-a-vis that employee, but unfortunately can't match you with somebody to actually file paperwork or visa applications on your or their behalf. Administrative or tax issues. If you have a question around tax law and how it impacts your nonprofit status, we can match you with somebody to give you that legal advice. But in terms of actually filing taxes, that's something you would need an accountant for. And that is something we would actually refer you to Taproot for, and do refer people to Taproot for if you need pro bono tax support. And urgent assistance. So there is a minimum 1 month waiting period where we are working to match you with pro bono counsel, but it does take a minimum because of the nature of pro bono it does take a minimum of 1 month to actually find you a match. So anything that's emergent, we would recommend going to somebody else for. But the good news is we do have an issue spotting exercise that we're going to go through now that is designed to help you anticipate a lot of legal issues before it gets to that urgent or emergent status. And those are all things we can help with. So we're just going to jump right in. And again, we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end and get started on this legal health check to give you an idea of the types of pro bono needs we can help with more in depth and if you might have any of them coming up. And just to let you know, we also do have a PDF version of this tool that I'm happy to send to Josh for circulation after the fact, and which you can also access on our website. So Structuring and governance is going to be our first kind of subcategory. And all requests that might fall under this umbrella would be, you set up a particular legal structure when you first incorporated, say a 501(c)(3). Is that still the most appropriate structure for you, or would it make more sense to restructure? And if so, do you need legal help in doing that? Have you recently reviewed and updated your governing documents? Do any of them need to be updated? Do any of your board agreements need to be updated? Do your articles of association include provisions to preserve your social mission, which a lot of your partners or grant giving organizations might ask you for? Are you clearly defining the roles and responsibilities of your executive leadership team, of your board, anything of that nature? If you want to review those documents, if you find you need help updating those documents or that structure, those requests do tend to be harder to place in the interest of transparency, just because of the nature of the pro bono market in the US at this time, but it's still something that we can help you find pro bono counsel for. Staff and recruitment. This is a very big area that we see, and this is where we place a lot of requests. If you have staff, if you have volunteers, if you're recruiting for staff and volunteers, then you probably do have HR questions. Do you have HR policies or a staff handbook that have been recently reviewed by council? Do you need to put those together? Have your employment contracts, volunteer agreements, anything like that been recently reviewed? Would you like them to be recently reviewed? Or would you like them to be reviewed if they haven't recently been? Are you getting particular questions from your volunteers or potential employees on employment contracts that you need to run by a lawyer? All things that we can help match you with pro bono counsel to get the answers for. Intellectual property and branding is another one. That is something that can take a lot of time and a lot of capital from an organization, and we understand that that can actually be a pretty big burden. So we see a lot of need around IP and branding. Do you have an idea or a piece of work, any kind of piece of work that you want to protect? Or do you anticipate producing something or releasing something in the near future that you would like to have intellectual property protection for? Do you use externally developed materials, and are you in compliance with the relevant IP laws around that? Anything of that nature, anything that goes on your website, any original photos, any products you sell in order to help support your mission should probably be protected under some sort of IP agreement or law. Contracts and policies, again, this is a big one. This is something pretty much every organization has to deal with, but it can get very time consuming and very expensive. Do you have template agreements for partner organizations that you would like reviewed? Would it make sense for you to have template contractor or external partner or vendor contracts that you would like help drafting? Are your website terms and conditions up to date, and are they being displayed in a proper way so that you're legally protected? Do you supply or distribute products or services, and is your liability covered if you do? Are you in compliance with data privacy and protection laws, especially on your website? That's a huge question, especially in the United States. So anything that you would want reviewed by a lawyer, anything that you need help implementing under the contracts and policies, that's where we see a huge amount of need. And those are actually projects that lawyers tend to be very excited to work on pro bono, because they're very bite-sized and they make a tangible difference right away. So lawyers are pretty excited to do those. Tax and finance, again, a lot of questions, particularly around 50(c)(3) status. Are you in compliance with everything you need to be doing to maintain your 501(c)(3) status, or whatever other nonprofit status or favored tax status that you have? Are you in compliance with all of your funding agreements? Are you about to enter into a big funding agreement that you would like a lawyer to review to make sure you can meet all of those requirements? Do you have a good understanding of your different financing options or your different tax options, and are you taking advantage of the one that's best for your organization? All things that it's good to just, even if you think you're in a good place, run by a lawyer every so often to make sure. Kind of like a checkup for your governance and for your tax status. And then those are all kind of in the legal advice bucket, talking a little bit more about legal research. Again, do you carry out advocacy activities? And if so, does it make sense to do a deep dive into a particular area of regulatory law that impacts your advocacy activities? Or do you need that particular research in order to be better informed when you're doing that advocacy in front of a state legislature or in front of Congress or in front of an international body? Do you campaign to change laws? And if so, are you in compliance with relevant lobbying restrictions? And if you're campaigning to change a particular law or policy, do you have the in-depth understanding of it that you need? Do you need to produce resources that are externally facing in order to support your advocacy, in order to do public awareness raising? All things that legal research projects can help with. So this is just an example of a research case study that is completely publicly available. I do just want to say that when you do legal research with TrustLaw, you completely own the deliverable. And if you prefer to keep it private, we keep it private. Sometimes our partners want these resources to be public, in which case we might make them available on our website or make them available in a presentation like this. That's the only reason you're seeing this here. So in this particular case, we worked with an organization called Equality Now that was looking to change the international regulatory environment and international policies concerning the online exploitation and abuse of women and girls. They needed a really in-depth overview of different laws and policies across a set of about 10 different countries in order to determine where the gaps were, where strengths were, and what exactly it was they wanted to advocate for at the international level. They used that legal research to ultimately produce a report that they were able to use in order to get stronger protections and policies in place for girls and women who are at risk of sexual exploitation online or who are experiencing it or have experienced it. Another example is a Know Your Rights Guide, which is a very popular type of external deliverable for legal research because it's very easily consumed by the majority of people. We worked with the Committee to Protect Journalists to produce this guide for journalists in the United States who were initially covering protests in 2020. We recently updated it for journalists covering the elections, just so they know and are able to easily see what they need to be doing in order to remain in compliance with the law while covering an event where there may be police present, so that they can do their job while also keeping themselves safe and obeying all relevant laws. So I've talked a lot at you about the different types of work that TrustLaw can support and TrustLaw can do. So I'll talk to you a little bit now about how you actually access that. So again, TrustLaw is completely free. We are membership based, but that application process, we try to make it as short and as painless as possible, especially for Taproot members who are coming to us, from one of our partner organizations who we absolutely love. So there is kind of basically a short online form that you would need to fill out. The first thing we would recommend you doing is checking our membership eligibility criteria, but because you're all members of Taproot, you should also be eligible for TrustLaw. So that's kind of the first hurdle in the process that you've already gotten through. We do ask that you still submit that application form. But again, we try to make it as quick and painless as possible. I can circulate the link, and along with my email address, if you have any questions, you can always get in touch with me. It's just going to ask basic questions about the type of work that you do, any impact that your work has made, your articles of incorporation, registration documents, things like that. And then once you submit that application, I am actually the one who reviews them all for the United States and Canada. So as long as you're joining from there, I will be the one reviewing your application. If not, and you would like to speak to the person who will be, if I know Taproot has some members in Europe and India, you can again get in touch with me, and I can go ahead and connect you with my relevant counterpart on those teams. Once you submit that online application, it generally takes 1 to 2 weeks in order for us to process it. Because it is the end of the year, it might actually take a little longer if you were to submit right now, but in general, 2-week waiting period max. And as soon as you become a member, you get access to our online membership portal and you can start accessing pro bono legal support. So I'll talk you through our member eligibility criteria now, just so you can see them. So you do need to be officially incorporated or registered. And you need to have been officially incorporated or registered for a minimum of 12 months before you become a member. If you're right on the cusp of that, say at 10 or 11 months, and you'd like to put an application in now, though, you can go ahead and do that. You do have to be non-discriminatory. That's self-explanatory. When we say apolitical, we just mean not an official government body or affiliated with a political party. If you do work that is political in nature, obviously that's completely fine. And non-proselytizing. So we do work with faith-based organizations. However, we ask that any faith-based organization that we work with not promote one faith to the exclusion of others or require participation in faith activities in order to access services. But if you have a faith motivation and are not doing any of those things, yes, please, we absolutely would welcome an application. Of course, working toward a social or environmental mission that is going to have positive social or environmental impact. We do ask that you be able to share at least one annual report or comparable material like a pitch deck or an information deck. If you are a for-profit, like a social enterprise, we do ask that you have a public commitment to reinvesting the majority of your profits into your organization's social or environmental mission. And we do ask that you be able to demonstrate that your organization is going to be sustainable financially for a minimum of 12 months from the time you submit an application. Quite frankly, because it's much easier to match organizations when the lawyers know that the impact that they are making will last for at least 12 months. But again, I would assume that everybody here, anybody listening to this criteria would meet it. So nothing to particularly worry about. However, if you have any questions or concerns, again, please let me know here. Please message me after, and I'm glad to chat through those with you. So how TrustLaw works once you become a member. I know I'm talking a lot at you. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I promise we're almost at the end of my spiel, and then I would be happy to take any questions. Once you become a TrustLaw member, you and as many of your colleagues as the organization thinks makes sense get access to our TrustLaw portal. And from there, again, we try to make it as quick and painless as possible. You are able to log onto the TrustLaw portal at any time, and that is where you will be able to monitor any ongoing projects that you have, as well as submit new requests for legal support. You do that by clicking a button that says new request. You submit a few sentences to a short paragraph describing that request. You'll book a call with a lawyer who is on TrustLaw's staff, who will not give you legal advice, but will just tease out the needs in more detail and then put them into a standardized format and standardized language, which you will have final approval on. Once we get that final approval from you, we then go and immediately begin proactively reaching out to our network of law firms and in-house counsel teams. And we also will post your request in the lawyer-facing side of our online portal so that if they are proactively searching for projects on a specific topic or in a specific jurisdiction, yours will come up. Any offers you receive after an initial 2-week, what we call bidding period, we will send to you after that 2 weeks. You will review them and you will decide who you want to work with. After that 2 weeks, if you haven't found a match yet, we will just continue to send you offers on a rolling basis until you find one that you would like to accept. And we do encourage you to also be proactively checking the portal, just because sometimes emails can go to spam or whatever, and you want to make sure you don't miss anything. Once you accept an offer, we send an email introducing you to that law firm and to the legal team who is going to be working with you. If it is a legal advice project, we pretty much step back at that point and let you go ahead and define what that engagement is going to look like. It's not something we want to be prescriptive about, although we will ask for feedback periodically just to make sure everything's going well. If it's a legal research project, because those can be more complex, if you are working with more than one law firm, we will still make sure that you are the one defining and setting the relationship, but we'll be there to play a project management role to make sure that every law firm that you're working with on legal research, sometimes you can be working with 2, 3, or 4, make sure they're meeting deadlines, make sure that we're all having a kickoff meeting to meet each other, making sure that your deadlines and your expectations are clear and set, and helping to troubleshoot anything that might come up. So this is just an opportunity to see what that TrustLaw portal looks like. Again, we hope that we make it as quick and painless as possible. But again, you would be able to review your own recent requests, any pending projects, and you'll be able to toggle to different tabs like My Account or New Request in order to submit a new request or access different information. So that is all. I will stop sharing my screen so that I can see the chat, but my email address as well as our general TrustLaw inbox email address are both up here. And again, we can circulate those afterwards as well. Always happy to hear from you at any time with any questions. And I'm just going to stop
Yeah.
sharing now.
And Livia, while you're transitioning there, we had about 4 or 5 questions. I just
Mhm.
sent them over to you via direct message. I think some of the information you did cover in the presentation, but if you want to go over it again, feel free.
Let me just get into it and take a look.
And
Okay, in
obviously,
the
if anyone
interest,
else, sorry,
I was
um,
just going to say, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if anyone else had any questions, go ahead and drop them in, and we can make sure to answer them here as well.
All right, so we have a great question first. Does a nonprofit have to be a certain size or have a minimum annual budget to qualify? No, you do not. You do not have to be a certain size or have a minimum annual budget. Some organizations are one person. And in terms of minimum annual budget, we don't have a number. You would just have to have enough to be able to ensure that you're going to be able to cover your minimum costs for the next 12 months, whatever those minimum costs might be. If it's $100, then if you have $100, you're all good. Oh no, I'm this isn't a question, but somebody saying they feel stressed out about everything you need to do. I'm sorry, that was not the intention of the legal health check. Please don't feel stressed out. And if you do, again, we're here at TrustLaw to help you. We like to say that we hope you think of us as another tool in your toolbox to reduce the administrative and cost burden associated with running an organization and the legal support that is needed to do that. And we never want to make you stressed out. We only want to be reducing that. So another question, what about a contract for a charity to take over an LLC business with e-commerce assistive technology products for disabled that align with mission? Owner is willing to let us take over or lease with clauses that go back to him under various criteria if it fails. So in general, yes, that should be a project that we can help with. Contracts in general are matters that we can help with. Because it relates to your mission, yes, that fits within TrustLaw's eligibility criteria. However, in order to advise you on the specific nature of the criteria, I actually can't do that here. So you're mentioning, there's different criteria or clauses in the contract. You're mentioning the specific type of products. That's what that scoping call with a TrustLaw lawyer would be for, to make sure that we can assist with this particular contract. But overall, it does broadly look like something that falls within TrustLaw's parameters. So can we help with outlining policies between a nonprofit and its social business? Yes, we can. That's a much more simple answer. Yes, we absolutely can. Okay. What counts as evidence of 12-month sustainability? Most nonprofits have 3 to 5 months of cash on hand. So we don't only take into account cash on hand. It can also be if you have a particular grant agreement in place that is going to cover you for the next 12 months. It can be that you have a way of earning not profits, but a lot of nonprofits will run a small business where maybe they're selling something. I'm not articulating this very well. They're selling something to support their mission. That could be evidence of sustainability. Cash on hand can be evidence of sustainability, length of incorporation with demonstrated solvency over the course of that time. Those can all be things that count toward that sustainability requirement. How long is the wait process with applying for an attorney? So it's a minimum of 1 month and can be longer depending on the nature of the request and the capacity of our pro bono network at that particular time of year. Can we submit multiple requests if we have another request open or pending? Yes, you can. You can have up to 3 requests pending legal support in the TrustLaw portal at one time, and you can have as many ongoing projects that you have been matched with an attorney on at one time as you like. So say you have 5 projects that you would like legal support on. You can submit the most urgent 3 first, or the most time sensitive 3 first. That's what we would encourage you to do. Then when we match you with a lawyer on one, you can slot that 4th project in. When we match you with a lawyer for the second one, you can slot that 5th project in, if that makes sense. Do we help with personal issues? Unfortunately, no. We cannot help with individual issues, even if it's at the level of the founder or executive director. Any issue that we help with would need to be at the overall governance or administration level. Can we submit a request on behalf of a different organization? Unfortunately, you cannot, but again, if you think that that organization would also benefit from TrustLaw membership, please do forward our contact information to them, and we'd be happy to chat with them about getting them onboarded as well. Now, if you support multiple groups and nonprofits and you're partnering with them on a piece of work and you are also actively engaged in that piece of work and you need legal advice in support of it, then yes, we can technically provide that support, but we would be providing it solely to you, and the other organization would kind of just be indirectly benefiting, if that makes sense. So what does incorporated mean? You have a nonprofit individual EIN. The organization is not a 501c3, but in 2025 plan to go through the process to determine structure, budget, and strategic planning. Can we participate and get help with this? Unfortunately not. I'm sorry. You do need to be officially incorporated as either a 501c3 or as some sort of for-profit social enterprise entity, like a B corporation, where you are officially registered and officially incorporated. You happen to be a nonprofit, but you are reinvesting a majority of your profits into your social mission. So unfortunately, we can't help with getting you incorporated. So I think that's all the questions that I have in the chat. Okay, here we have more coming in now. Can we assist with creating a cooperative venture as a branch of the nonprofit? Technically, yes. I will tell you, in the interest of transparency, that that would be something that would be harder to find pro bono support. Just the nature of the pro bono market in the US at this particular time is one in which it is very hard to find support for any kind of restructuring or setting up an entity. However, it does fall within the parameters of something that TrustLaw can help you with. So it's something we are absolutely happy to try to find you an attorney for. It just might take a little longer than that 4-week period that we talked about. Are the services similar to the pro bono partnership? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with what that is. Josh, do you know?
Yes, so it looks like Pro Bono Partnership is also a similar organization that does something similar. I'm not as familiar with them, unfortunately either. But it is another kind of legal
I
pro bono
understand.
outfit. Yeah.
Thank you. I thought it might have been a Taproot program, so I wanted
No, no,
to,
no.
to
It
double
is
check.
a separate outfit that does legal services as well.
Okay.
However, I mean, if anyone's interested, I can, I'm just looking them up online, so I don't beyond my amateur Googling, I don't have better information, unfortunately.
No, thank you. So I thought I didn't mean to put you on the spot again. I thought it was a Taproot program. So maybe I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that particular organization, but it sounds like it might be similar. That said, if you are already a member of or participating in an organization or program that offers pro bono legal services, that does not exclude you from TrustLaw eligibility. Again, we're just meant to be another tool in the toolbox. You can be a member of as many organizations as you like. You can be working with pro bono attorneys through another venue or via another route. And if you still want to come to us just on one particular project or two particular projects because of capacity or what have you, we welcome that. So what about if an organization is registered as a nonprofit under state law, even if it does not have a 501c3 status? Does that qualify as a nonprofit? I would say yes, as long as it's registered, it should. I would need to have a look at those particular registration documents, but you do not have to be specifically a 501c3 in order to be eligible. You just have to be officially registered or incorporated. So yes, that should qualify you for TrustLaw membership. What services do you foresee being able to provide in the wake of HR 9495 if nonprofits have their 501c3 challenged or revoked by the incoming administration? That's a great question, Vernon. I am actually going to hold off on answering that because we are working internally to better understand that ourselves right now. So I would absolutely encourage you to come back to us with that question probably after the first of the year, because I want to make sure that I'm giving you the most accurate, up-to-date answer and that we're providing you with the best information and support possible. Okay, I'm just being quiet because I think we're at the end of.
Yeah, I was gonna jump in and say I think that's it on all the questions we have.
Oh, where's the link
If you
to
want.
enroll? We'll circulate that link by email. Josh, if it's okay, I'll send you that link and you can maybe circulate it to everybody who's been on the call along with, my email address, and I'll send you a couple of other supporting materials as well, so everybody will have those.
Yeah. And just to recap for everyone, if you came in a little bit later, we are recording this and we are gonna send a recorded link or a link to the recording rather out to everyone. So if you miss something or want to forward it to someone else, in your network or that you're at your organization. So I just wanted to re-up that. You'll be getting in a follow-up email with a lot of goodies in it to everyone who registered. It looks like there might be a question from Genesis that you can answer for us, Livia.
Yeah, I think we actually have two more questions that have come
Okay.
in. So first we have, can you help drafting an operating agreement of a wholly owned subsidiary LLC chapter? Again, yes, we should be able to. That should fall squarely under the contracts bucket of work that we can support on. So in line with the question above, so the question regarding HR 9495, do we foresee our organization could provide legal support if federal funds awarded or taken away from grantees? Again, I can't answer any questions about that right now. I would recommend checking back after the first of the year. Thank you so much to everybody who's putting thank yous in the chat. We really hope this was helpful. I'm happy to continue to hang out and answer as many questions as people have. But if you prefer to get in touch later or you just think of the questions later, again, as I do, Josh, you mentioned that earlier. I think probably we all have that tendency, always available. Um, there's a question in the chat just reading history. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Do you mean will we be saving the chat history? Oh, you'd like an overview of TrustLaw's history. Well, I can send you a link to our website as well, and you can take a look. But essentially, TrustLaw has been a part of the Thomson Reuters Foundation for roughly 10 years now. And over that time, we have been providing pro bono legal support globally, and have grown to the largest pro bono legal services organization that there is. We take a lot of pride in our specific niche at the intersection of law and the nonprofit world. And to this day, we work around the world to provide access to legal support for nonprofits and social enterprises doing any kind of positive and progressive social environmental work you could think of. Yes, Genesis, absolutely. And Michelle, absolutely would love to connect after January 1st to chat more about some of those outstanding questions.
Looks like that's it in terms of questions.
Class action lawsuit for disabled. So again, we can't actually help with litigation in terms of somebody representing you in court, filing motions or papers on your behalf, sending letters on your behalf. We could match you with somebody to advise you of your general rights and responsibilities or what you could expect out of a case if one were to come up or if you were interested in starting one, but couldn't actually help with the bulk of a case that would involve litigation. And it would have to be a case on behalf of the organization. It could not be a case on behalf of a particular individual or even particular set of individuals. It would have to be for the organization. Going once. Okay, again, I mean, I'm happy to continue to hang out. I'm happy to continue to chat if anybody would like to, stay after and speak a little more informally. Otherwise, always available after the fact.
Well, it looks like that's it on questions. Thank you so much, Livia.
Thank you
Um,
so much, Josh, for hosting us. And thank you so much to everybody for taking the time and for all of your great questions. They're actually very much appreciated. Somebody would like to stay on a bit? Sure, I will be here.
yeah, and I can actually, Aya, if you wanna.
Are we able to ask questions now by voice?
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. If anybody would prefer to ask a question that way, go ahead. Aya, please feel free to go ahead and ask now.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark, for saying that. I was about to say it myself.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Aya. I thought you were the one. I
Oh,
thought you
no.
were the one who said it. Mark, please go ahead.
I try to write things on the chat. That's why, but I can't type fast enough. I'm a quadriplegic guy myself. So I asked that question about, when we're a charity that represents folks with disabilities worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
Although one of the we've seen becoming very epidemic. I'm a quadriplegic man myself, so I see it, and I've talked to elder care attorneys and stuff. Like as an example, here in Florida, they've implemented what they call uh, medic uh, uh, managed Medicaid, which is
Mm-hmm.
essentially privatizing Medicaid, which just means they
Mm-hmm.
don't pay anything. They
Yeah.
anything they can figure out how to deny, delay, and not pay is their profit. So
Mm-hmm.
most people with significant disabilities, they simply say, well, nobody's willing to work, but nobody's
Mm-hmm.
willing to work for sub-market wages. Thus, if nobody's working, nobody's providing any home care, they keep all the money and they provide nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's what I was asking I'm trying to figure out how do we fight this. The only idea I could come up with is a class action lawsuit, but we're looking for other ways as a means of advocacy to just try to help people. And I hear stories every day of people all over the country that this stuff is just happening and it keeps getting worse and
Mm-hmm.
worse.
Yeah, I mean,
And,
just
and it's supposed
out
to
of
be protected
personal.
under. It's supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
protected under the Supreme Court uh, decision that said any funds that are available to keep you in institutions should be available to keep you in the community. But
Mm-hmm.
it's never enacted in any state. It's been challenged like 100 times, always shut down, but no state has ever actually implemented that Supreme Court decision. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
that I foresee it's going. It's getting to the point that people are being forced out of the community into nursing homes. I hear those stories all the time.
Mm-hmm. So that would actually and this is probably something to speak more in depth about, but the way you're explaining it now sounds like that could actually fall under the category of a legal research project if you wanted to be matched with firms across. There is a limit, so 10 jurisdictions is our limit for a legal research project. But for example, if you were to pick the 10 states where you hear of this happening the most or it being the most endemic, and you wanted law firms to do a deep dive into all of the existing policies and regulations and their actual implementation and what barriers to implementation and enforcement are, that is something we could help with that would maybe put you in a better position in order to determine your best course of action. And if it is a class action lawsuit, determine what a case would look like and how you would need to be going about it and what resources you would need in order to carry that forward. That would be an example of a
Yeah,
research project.
that would be huge, because right now
Right.
it's like you don't know what to do, and I see it's spreading. It's like a cancer that's spreading, because now Georgia's going, well, Florida's getting away with it. Maybe we should try it too.
Mm. There's just so much I could say there. But yes, I think that, definitely understanding a little bit more about what the need is, that is a project that would fall squarely within TrustLaw's parameters that we would absolutely be happy to, help match you with pro bono counsel for the purposes of that legal research. And that can be to inform yourselves, that can be to inform the community that you serve. Again, you can pick the deliverable and we can work with you to iron out, how exactly we get that deliverable and who your best law firm matches might be and what jurisdictions you would like to focus on. But that is a project that would definitely fall under TrustLaw's parameters.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, because I've had a conversation with elder care attorneys, and they say, "Oh, we've been looking," or they're a member of some national group, and they're like, "We've been watching for a case that would, maybe go all the way to the Supreme Court, and we found one or two." But then they say, "Well, we just need you to come up with a couple, the individual to come up with a couple $1,000,000." I'm like, "Well, somebody on Medicaid doesn't have a couple $1,000,000. If they had a couple $1,000,000, they wouldn't need to be on Medicaid."
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you.
No, absolutely. And I'm glad we were able to chat that through a little bit more.
Hi. My issue is not nearly as good, as complicated as Mark's, and I feel for you, Mark. My heart goes out to you. Um, we have a nonprofit that is formed. We're in Illinois, so we have a nonprofit. But about a year later, we saw the need for a social business enterprise. We're a training organization in the construction trades, and we needed a space to send our trainees to work as a transitional place before they go on and hopefully work for either the unions or other contractors. So right now, I sit on the board as one of the founding members of the nonprofit, but I also run the social business enterprise. So because of those close gray lines, if the for-profit or the L3C does any work or anything for the nonprofit, we have not been paid for such work. We write it off as a donation. Sometimes that works, but when we get into high dollar amounts, it becomes a difficulty on the social business enterprise financially. So we need a more clearly defined agreement between the two organizations. And we've been hesitant for me to come off the board just as a founding member. I've seen disasters happen when that takes place. The executive director of the nonprofit is also a founding member. She came off the board to run the nonprofit, so there wouldn't be that conflict. But we definitely need some type of agreement in place that allows the social business to get paid for the work that we do so that we can then pay our trainees that are on our jobs, and it's a complicated kind of thing, and we have just opted to not pay the social business enterprise because we don't want to get in trouble,
Mhm.
and blur the lines there. So we definitely need a look at an updated agreement, and just kind of how that can happen so that both organizations remain sustainable.
Mhm. So I understand. I can't give actual legal advice on this particular call,
Yeah,
but in short,
understood.
I can tell you that that is something that TrustLaw could help you get legal assistance for.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So my executive director was not able to join. She had a
Mhm.
conflict. But we'll look at the recording and kind of formulate some questions, and I'll make sure that she gets her application in to assist with that. And then my other question was the co-op
Mhm.
question, and we are looking at the possibility of forming a co-op, a worker-owned co-op for
Mhm.
those workers that are coming out of training. We want them to have some skin in the game, but we also want them to benefit from controlling their own HR and
Mhm.
job functions. So, but I want to be able to set it up correctly based on Illinois law, and just kind of the best way to do that so that the workers benefit.
Mhm. Again, I'm sorry, I don't have a different answer for you. That should be a project that TrustLaw can help with, and that I would recommend submitting through the portal and chatting with a TrustLaw lawyer about, but I unfortunately can't give legal advice on this particular call.
Okay, and that's great. I just wanted to know it's something that you can do, and
Hmm.
we can take it.
No, yeah, no, I definitely would say that, yeah, that's something TrustLaw can help with. Fortunately, just not something I can help with today,
Yeah.
but yes, that is a project you could submit through TrustLaw.
Okay, thank you so much.
No, absolutely. Thank you for those questions. So if nobody has anything else,
I just had one thought. Um,
mhm.
Another organization I know that's struggling financially, and I advise them they're probably better off just declaring bankruptcy. Is that is bankruptcy law for a nonprofit? Is that something that is within the scope or even exists or what?
I'm not sure actually. I have to admit I've never had that question. I would have to ask I would have to ask my colleagues and get back to you on that. But I'm happy to do that. If you Mark, if you just shoot me an email, for anybody still here, I'll just put my email in the chat. For anybody not here again, Josh will be very kindly circulating it. Um, Mark, if you just want to shoot me that question via email, I will follow up with my colleagues and I will get back to you directly.
Okay, I'm sure it kind of falls into the whole thing of like 1 year of sustainability, but they're drowning under debts and stuff from the whole EIDL and
Well,
everything.
that
Like they need to
mhm.
reorganize to make it sustainable, or it won't be. And and I,
That's actually a fair point. So this particular organization likely would not be eligible. If this particular topic is something we can help with, say for an organization that already is a member of Trust Law that then found themselves in this situation, whether we cover bankruptcy specifically, I'm not sure. If that's something you would like me to find out, I would be happy to do so. Um, but I've never come across that question before.
sure, typically you don't end up. Well, I don't know how many other nonprofits end up under debts that too much debts
Hmm.
that they're applying for.
Yeah.
I'm sure it must
Hopefully,
happen.
hopefully not too many.
Right, right. I don't know. Anyway, well, thank you. It was just a thought that occurred, and anyway, thank you.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, and we'll send out the PDF copy of the presentation as well with Livia's information on it. So you will have the slides with her contact information as well. If you want to follow up directly with her as after this presentation.
Well, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for the questions. I look forward to following up with all of you. And thank you again, Josh and Taproot, for hosting us, and wishing everybody a very happy, as smooth as possible end of 2024.
Thank you, Livia. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for what you all do.
Thank you.
Bye.